The rain was tapping hard against the library windows, but inside the room, it was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The air smelled of old books and stale coffee. My grandfather, Arthur, had been buried only 3 days ago, and now the sharks were circling. By sharks, I mean my family. My Aunt Linda was gripping her designer purse so hard her knuckles were white. My cousin Mike was tapping his foot, checking his watch every 30 seconds. They weren't there to mourn the man who raised us. They were there for the money. Then there was Alina. Alina had been grandfather's maid for over 20 years. She was standing in the back corner of the room, wearing her simple gray coat, holding a wet umbrella. She looked small and tired. Nobody offered her a chair. To them, she was just part of the furniture, something that came with the house. But I knew she was the only one who had sat by grandfather's bed every single night while he was sick, reading to him when his eyes were too weak to see the pages. Mr. Henderson. The lawyer cleared his throat and adjusted his glasses. "I will now read the final distribution of assets," he said. Aunt Linda sat up straighter. Mike stopped tapping his foot. "To my daughter Linda and her children," Mr. Henderson read, his voice dry, "I leave the collection of vintage cars and the antique furniture." Linda's face fell. "The cars? That's it? What about the accounts?" "Please let me finish," the lawyer said. He turned the page. "To my grandson David," he looked at me. "I leave my library and my personal journals." I nodded. I loved those books. It was enough for me. "And finally," the lawyer continued, taking a deep breath, "to Elena, who was my hands when I could not move and my voice when I could not speak, I leave the remainder of my estate. This includes the manor, the investment portfolio, and the cash reserves. Total value is estimated at $12 million. The silence that followed was heavy, like the air before a thunderstorm. Then the room exploded. "What?" Aunt Linda screamed, jumping up. "That's impossible. She forced him. She manipulated a dying man." Mike was red in the face. "This is a joke, right? You're giving everything to the help?" They turned to look at Elena with pure hate. I looked at her too. I expected her to look shocked or maybe happy. $12 million changes a life. It fixes everything. But Elena didn't look happy. She looked sad. She walked slowly toward the heavy oak desk where the lawyer sat. The room went quiet again, everyone waiting to see her claim her prize. "Mr. Henderson," she said softly. Her English was broken, but her voice was steady. "Is this true? The money is mine?" "It is, Elena. It is all yours." "Arthur wanted you to be safe." Elena nodded. She reached into her pocket. I thought she was going to pull out a tissue. Instead, she pulled out a small velvet pouch. She opened it and took out a simple silver key. Then, she did the thing that stunned us all. She turned to Aunt Linda and held out the key. "This is for the house," Elena said. Then she looked at the lawyer. "Mr. Henderson, do you have a paper? A paper to give things away?" "A deed of gift?" the lawyer asked, confused. "Yes, please write it." She waited while the confused lawyer drafted a quick note. Then, right there in front of everyone, Elena signed her name. "I give it to them," she said, pointing to my aunt and cousin. "The money, the house, all of it." Aunt Linda stopped breathing. You're giving it to us. Why?" Elena looked at them, and for the first time, I saw pity in her eyes. It wasn't anger, it was pity. "Because," Elena said, her voice trembling slightly, "Arthur told me about the arguments. He told me how much you wanted this money. He cried because he thought you only loved him for his wallet." She took a step closer to my aunt. "I took care of him because he was my friend. I cooked his soup. I held his hand when he was scared of the dark. You cannot buy those moments with $12 million. If I keep this money, I am just an employee who got paid. But I was not an employee. I was family." She placed the signed paper on the desk. "You need the money to be happy," Elena said softly. "I do not. I have my memories. That is what he really left me." She turned to me and gave me a small, sad smile. "Take care of the books, David." He loved reading with you." And then she simply walked out. We all sat there frozen. My aunt held the paper worth millions, but she didn't look rich. She looked ashamed. The room was filled with expensive things, but as the door clicked shut behind the maid, I realized that the richest person had just left the building.